Hello, I'm Tommy Moore from the Bartitsu Lab. In this video I want to talk about contracted arm blows. Now, contracted arm blow is something that's more prolific in early bare knuckle boxing, early pugilism, and it's something which better ports over to boxing for self-defense than it does for boxing in the ring. But I'll give you a bit of a primer of what that actually means. A contracted arm blow is essentially where we reduce the number of moving parts in the punch. So as opposed to, say, a traditional cross, where we've got our shoulder, our elbow, our wrist, our hip, our foot, all turning. Okay. Contracted arm blow is essentially where we will lock in the arm, like so. So we'll lock in the arm. The arm will not really move outside of here. So it will not extend. And what I will do is I'll keep this as the solid object and use my body to provide the momentum. So this is the structure. My body provides the mass and the movement. Okay? And it's something you see rather a lot in traditional boxing. You also see it purported by Tim Larkin's target focused training guys. So it's old school and new school. It's very interesting. So fewer moving parts means less loss of energy. So when you're firing, boom, 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 sometimes bits of that force, bits of that speed, bits of that mass can fall through the gaps. And there's a relatively decent margin for error in how you might flare, how when you're moving and articulating all of these joints, the margin for error expands. Yep. I love all styles of punches. Don't get me wrong, this is just for interest, really, something to get you talking. So, contracted arm blow, where we lock in the shape of the blow we want to strike, and we use our body to deliver it. So, therefore, it's a closer range technique. That's why I mentioned more suited to boxing for self-defense than necessarily boxing for the ring, at least nowadays. So, the body is a unit. I'm allowing my legs to move my mass with speed and force, and the structure of my arm is relatively locked in. It's not to say I'm hugely tense. I'm doing it this way just to provide you with a visual representation that this is locked. This is locked in. So some examples of contracted arm blows. So we may go from here to the body, as opposed to me striking out to the body, me moving, ducking. I could do it in a Slavic fashion, whatever. There's lots of ways to throw straight to the body. In this instance, I'll be throwing a vertical shot to the solar plexus, keeping this arm relatively locked in. The acceleration and the speed and the depth provided by my legs. So my arm doesn't do much at all. From here. So the arm doesn't really leave my body per se. That's why it's contracted. It's a contracted arm blow. The arm is relatively locked into me. So from here, I've fired this shot in. So I've plunged this in here. I've kept a pretty solid structure, and I've used my legs to deliver the force. It might be, for example, I might put a distraction up top. I might just talk up top. So in a classic sucker punch scenario, so I might put the hand on the shoulder. I'll then launch this contracted arm blow in from here. And if you feel it, it's actually a nice solid blow. You want to be moving in the direction of the shot. It's a forward pressure style shot. In this instance, using the vertical fist. So it comes from a distraction, come from the fence, whatever. I step in, boom. The shot remains relatively locked. So I keep the structure and the speed comes from my legs. From here, straight in, straight in. Nice, simple, contracted arm blow to the solar plexus, pit of the stomach, liver, spleen, what have you. You've got uppercuts version. This is more prolific in early bare knuckle boxing. So early bare knuckle boxing, a contracted arm blow, you might have it fully supinated, like so, fully supinated. In this instance, let's say I do a traditional uppercut. If I do a traditional uppercut, some force goes into him, and some force, because of the nature of the blow, comes out this way. So circular, normal, boom, boom, uppercut. Some goes into his body, and some comes out of his body. I'm striking a circular motion. A traditional bare knuckle boxing contracted arm blow would have all the force into his body. So the uppercut provides all of the kinetic energy into his body from here. So in this instance, I'm firing the uppercut still, but all of it ends up planted in his body. and the arm is contracted. It's locked in. Boom, boom. I'm using the body to provide the acceleration. Hum, hum. I might be stepping in, or twisting in, or plunging in. There's lots of different ways to apply the velocity. Boom. So I can have an upward surge, or I could be drop stepping in. Either way, but the arm is relatively locked in. You're still getting the power, you're still getting the torque, but you're having much less energy come out of this end. Most of it's going into the human. So again, when you've got gloves on, when you're in the ring, when you're rapid fire sparring or boxing, you're not really going to be able to pull these off because you'll be able to fire 10, 15 uppercuts at you. But if you're looking at hitting bare knuckle in a safe way, in a way that puts a lot of mass and damage into in one go, contracted arm blows are a really interesting and useful way to uppercut. So in this way, contracted arm blow uppercut, contracted arm blow body shot. You've then got contracted arm blow hooks, which are a bit easier because they're a bit more natural to us. So from here, keeping my arm in this locked off L, I'm going to turn. So again, from the fence, I'm just turning the structure with my hip. I'm trying not to make any curving motions in this instance. I'm just trying to use my hip to have the contracted arm blow. It's contracted, it's locked, to end up in here. You practice this against heavier targets, against makiwara, iron palm bag. When you do bare knuckle sparring, it feels more solid. I find I get a lot less injury to the wrist than things that fire out away from me. So it's a nice, important shot. From here, contracted arm blow, hook in this instance. You can do it with a vertical or a horizontal, doesn't really matter. But we're locking in the structure, locking in the shape, either way. Okay, and then again you can follow that same pattern. It's hard to do a cross in this format, but what you can do is an elliptical cross, almost like a short overhand. So in the same way that you were doing this type blow, boom. So my body provides the speed, the body provides the transference of the mass, the arm is locked in as a unit. From here, nice and simple. Or here. When it comes to the elliptical overhand, much the same gig. I keep that structure. So from here, over. I've not separated or thrown the punch. Bang! I've kept that locked in structure. So from here. So again, from a position of surrender, a tight, close fence, whatever, hands in the air, you've just ducked out the way of a punch, whatever, you've got this locked in structure. Nice and simple. That's a short, quick guide to contracted arm blows. I mean, you can also do them from the side if you look at older bare knuckle boxing with a pivot blow. Traditional pivot blow, it's essentially a sideways hammer fist. But you can also do this with a locked in contracted arm pivot blow. So from here, I might decide to lock in. This instance I'm more likely to hit with the forearm, but the structure is still the same. So I've kept that right angle rigidity. So all I've had to do is move the hips explosively. I haven't had to look at any loss or attrition of power. I haven't had to look at any kind of structural weaknesses. I've got my structure, I'm happy with the structure, I'm going to use the hips. Relatively locked in. So you'll notice that most of the techniques of a contracted arm blow are at a right angle. So they're at a 90-degree slice of the pie, whether that's into the body, uppercut to the body, whether that is in a short hook variant, or whether you've got a short elliptical overhand, or whether you're working off a locked-in pivot blow. Either way, there's some really interesting pros, and there's also some cons to contracted arm blows, but they're ones worth playing with, experimenting with. You do tend to get a lot of mass into the target, a lot of penetration into the target. What you lose is agility, you lose a bit of speed, but you keep some structure, and you've got some really pretty decent power. So again, things to play with, things to explore. I really enjoy both. Why have to choose? Have a play with them, but for some boxing, for self-defense, you may wish to take some of your best known, best loved techniques, apply them in a contracted arm blow manner at a range which is a bit more indicative of a real confrontation, and they really do the business. So give it a play, see what you think, enjoy.